Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's churchgoers, lunch, learn, and pray. Brother Paul at the controls here. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a nice Friday, and we're going to start off as usual with our moderator.
Greetings and welcome to our Lunch, Learn, and Pray session presented by Churchgoers, the thought leaders in digital ministry, and community church. Today, as always, we start by blessing your lunch, followed by a multimedia presentation, and concluding with a Q&A section. Just a few housekeeping points to go through before we get started. Please stay on mute until we launch the interactive section. But in the meantime, do key your questions in the chat or use the Google form link provided. The session will be recorded, so you are welcome to switch off your cameras if preferred. But if you're feeling truly Christian, then key your name and church in the chat, and keep those emojis coming. Lastly, we thank NTCG Herne Hill for sponsoring the session today. I now have great pleasure in introducing the founder of Churchgoers, Brother Paul Johnson.
Praise God. Praise God. I never get tired of listening to that. So, churchgoers, you guys must be getting the idea now. So, the blueprint for Church Centers of Excellence, focusing on digital ministry, rolling that out to UK churches. I'll just, for those who aren't familiar, I'll just describe our little graphic here, which is our icon that shows believers up here going on a journey to become digital evangelists. And furthermore, mentoring role models. So we know you guys are already role models in society, but we want you to go a little bit further and become mentoring role models, which is a lot easier than it sounds. And at the same time, we are empowering conventional churches to go on a journey to become hybrid churches, which basically means that you operate an offline and one step further to that is to become centers of excellence. And we're going to go into a little bit of detail as to what the steps are involved with that today. With regards churchgoers, so I probably won't go into the history of churchgoers. We do have a digital summit event coming up next month where we're going to start from the beginning and go through the whole story and show you the whole platform. But essentially, churchgoers was commissioned to look really at community services and digital services being offered by churches via a manifesto. And so the platform was born out of the recommendations made in a manifesto. And so typically some of the community services that we want to add in addition to warm spaces and food banks and soup kitchens are mentoring, training, courses, and also digital equipment. We can give away phones, SIM cards, and there's lots in store. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a rough idea. Go to the next slide. So there is quite a lot to churchgoers. We offer something for visitors, for members, for ministers, leaders, and entrepreneurs. And depending on which lane you sit in is really where you should start to explore churchgoers. Today, we're actually going to be looking at how to become a church center of excellence, or at least how to grow a digital ministry and then become a church center of excellence, which is, I guess, somewhere around here. It would be that the leaders would be more interested in that. Let's just see what we got here. Okay, so I'm going to try and be a bit cheeky today and do two presentations in one. So here we have 10 steps to becoming a church center of excellence, right? 10 steps. And hopefully it won't be as bad as it sounds. I mean, 10 steps. I mean, you guys should be doing what, 2,000 steps a day or whatever it is. 10 steps. That's like today's work. Okay, so join our fellowship network. So the whole concept of what we're doing requires a network. In fact, the church on paper is the biggest network in the world. It's the absolute biggest community network in the world that doesn't have a network until now. You know, I don't even know how we can define the word fellowship if you don't have a network, if you do not have a protocol to communicate on. And that was the first thing we put in place. So that first hyperlink there, churchgoers.mn.co, is your ticket to have a network where you can communicate with anybody that wishes to receive your fellowship on the network. So that could be within your church, your district, your denomination, and wider. We've also got the WhatsApp channel, which is for quick comms, and we also have a LinkedIn page, which we're going to be growing a lot more aggressively in the weeks to come. So that's the first step: get on the network so that we can. Step 2, then, request a group space for your church in the fellowship network. So it's the same link, churchgoers@mn.co. You can come on as an individual. Your first point of call is you come on as an individual, and as I say, you can fellowship with anybody in a global space. But you want to take your church with you. You can't go to a party on your own. You can't join a network on your own. So you really want to convince your church to come alongside with you. And if they do, then you can have your own group space for your church so that you can have comms between your church as well as comms across the kingdom and in between, right? So it gives you that flexibility. Okay, and there's a little diagram of some churches that have been onboarded, or at least their spaces have been defined. So in this instance, we're looking at some churches for New Testament Church of God, and one in particular for Herne Hill. Okay, rise up. This is our knowledge base. So step number 3, review our knowledge base of best practices and digital blueprint designs. So, excuse me. In fact, let me just go into it. The bulk of how we decided to develop churchgoers was to provide information, an information hub, a central hub where you guys can receive, receive information in whatever format you feel comfortable. We have videos, we have animations, we have documents, we have blogs, podcasts, every format that we could think of. We've put it into this knowledge base. And if I just quickly show you around, it has all the topics that were in the manifesto that birthed this whole project. So church and community, economic development, environment, right down to youth and education. But the focus is on digital ministry, which we break down into technology, communications, and evangelism. Right. So that's our definition of digital ministry. Now, most churches actually already have the technology. So from a hardware point of view, you don't really have much to do. You've got computers, you've got AV systems, you've got all the tech. But as I was saying last week, it's whether you have the ology that connects the tech so that you can become efficient and effective and also cost effective. Yeah. So without the knowledge of how to use the tech, you're actually not much better off than not having the tech, believe it or not. So that's what we try to do on your behalf, and we concentrate in your digital ministry. Communications, again, we covered it in steps 1 and 2. Without a network, without a means of communicating, I don't know how we define fellowship. I don't know how we are supposed to communicate. I don't know how you're supposed to run a church without making it clear how we're supposed to communicate other than face to face, because there's 5 billion people on the internet. Anyway, lastly, we have evangelism, and I think this is our key purpose, or at least this points to our key purpose. how many recordings we're going to get today, but it seems like quite a lot. So evangelism, right? For me, that's the top of our job description. You know, we're supposed to be going out there and evangelizing to as many people as possible, which leads me to target the internet because there's 5 billion plus people there. So we have techniques to create blogs, books, email campaigns, events, music, podcasts, videos, and websites. Okay, I'm going to leave the book for now. I might come back to it later, but I think you get the idea. We provide a central hub, and it's a digital ministry book, and more or less everything you need to know is on that book. I'll just quickly show you where more or less every page has got a video on it, and an animation and some text. And then if you click the buttons, it will lead you to the blog or the podcast. And every page is consistently developed in that format. So if you don't like words, just play the video. All right. Okay. Where do we get to? Step 3. Very key step though. That step 3 is very, very key. All right. So if I was to explain to people what the most important steps are, 4 and 5 are the most important steps. So 4, complete your cyber essentials self-assessment. So if your church isn't secure and the environment around it, in today's world, catastrophe is just around the corner. We had an incident actually. I say we. I'm aware of a church that their WhatsApp, a few members' WhatsApp groups. But you can recover from that because it's just a WhatsApp. It was just a personal WhatsApp account, and within a day you can recover from that. If your website gets targeted, there's no 24-hour turnaround on that. You may not recover depending on what damage they've done to your website. So it's something that my heart is. I'm thinking of all the different ways I can make people aware that their websites needs to be secure. Your whole infrastructure needs to be secure, but in particular your digital footprint. Cybersecurity is the umbrella it comes under, and the government recommends a Cyber Essentials um, certification, which you can self-assess or you can get an independent organization to guide you through it. Secondly, GDPR. Most people are familiar with GDPR. Most people think that they are compliant with GDPR, even though they can't name all the regulations. Trust me, I've yet to come across many people who can even tell me what GDPR stands for. The requirements to be GDPR compliant are very extensive. It's not something that you can. It seems simpler than it is, but the requirement really is for you to set your processes up so that if the ICO, the Independent Commissioner's Office, were to visit your site, you would need to show them very detailed processes, a data model, all the attributes you store on individuals, every single process. You would need to show them, convince them that you have all that in order. What you put on your website might be a little bit of fluff to say, yes, we do this, yes, we do that, yes, the other. But when they audit you, they're not looking at what you put in your policy. They want to see your processes, your data model, and your attributes. And I'm telling you, I've yet to see an organization that can satisfy that criteria. The fine involved will cripple most organizations. You're talking 8 digits, right? 8 digits if you get it wrong. Step 6, request your app in the church services multi-directory. Yeah, so this is where the fun starts, right? So the ChurchGOers app is a multi-directory, right? So it gives you a directory of all the food spaces, directory of all the churches, directory of soup kitchens and stuff. Church. So, and for the churches that don't have apps, their own app, then you can request your own app that exists within ChurchGOers, but you can reference it externally, and that guides your visitors and members around your church and connects them to the services that you offer in your church. So step 6 is a nice step. Right. Number 7, grow your digital ministry using our best practices and digital blueprints. So that book I showed you earlier, it also has some diagrams, which I'm going to go back into if time is kind to me, and show you a couple of the blueprints, because they're illustrations. Let me just zoom in here. Yeah, so they're illustrations of um, in this instance, what your website structure, not how it should look, but the structure of it should be there. So what you won't see on a typical church website are much focus on the services that we provide. And I think that is, from a marketing perspective, that's an oversight. If we provide food banks, warm spaces, soup kitchens, or whatever it is, then it needs to be mentioned on your website, because it will attract people to your church for whatever reason. Get them in the sanctuary first, and then you evangelize. um, Reviews, ratings, and testimonies for sure. Every church, every church should be advertising their testimonies on a website. It's the most powerful thing we have. And and I think I mentioned this last week. Every retail organization uses testimonies as their primary way of convincing a visitor to become a customer. It is astonishing that we don't even know how to use our own. Hey. On the left hand side here, we have SEO, search ads, social ads. This is where it starts to get a little bit complicated, right? It's like, if you want to attract a larger volume of people to your website, you need to understand SEO, SEM, paid ads, social ads. You kind of you're going into an area where you need somebody to guide you through it, and of course, ChurchGOers provides that function. And then on the right hand side, we've got business profile, we've got campaigns, and we've got CRM. Again, the average church does go nowhere near these areas. Business profile, a quick tip is, yes, we should have a business profile. This is how we influence the search engines to favor our organization over another one. So it is suicidal not to have it. You should have it before your website goes up, because it is in effect a skeleton website. So tip number 1, get yourself a business profile. And then newsletters, campaigns, CRM. Yeah, that starts to get a little bit more involved. But if you want to be a church center of excellence, then that is what it's going to take. So the blueprints are at that level. They guide you, as they illustrate what you should have in place. And then when you click a button, it will give you more detail behind that. Okay, step 8. Upload your business to the Faith Enterprise Network and post your listings, promos, and events on it. Correct. So going back to the manifesto talks about, the economic model behind churches, and how churches can influence the 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 well-being of the community we serve. And at the moment, we don't even influence our own community. We don't even look after ourselves, never mind be in a position to help other people. So what the Churchgoers Network provides is a framework, is well, it's a network, a business enterprise network that enables businesses to advertise and promote their business to their family, to their community. Yeah, we're all on one single network, and we promote amongst ourselves. That generates more revenue, which helps the church to grow and offer more services. Your business flourishes because now you've got however million people there are in the UK that are affiliated with a church. So your business flourishes, the church flourishes, everybody's happy. And it's a very simple model when you guys come on and understand it. Step 8, but it's a very simple step. Step 9, benchmark your church against ChurchGOers best practices and church manifesto recommendations. Right. So this is saying, right, your digital ministry is in place, but there's some recommendations in the manifesto which goes above and beyond normal church services. So I mentioned earlier that we're going to be doing mentoring, we're going to be offering training, we're going to be offering additional services to the auxiliary services that we provide. We're going to be looking at, are we kind to the environment? Can we become a green church? Can we do a little bit more to preserve the planet? There's things in the manifesto that looks at, it's a typical political manifesto. It looks at the whole priorities of a community and what needs to be done in order for us all to thrive. And so to be recognized as a church center of excellence, you need to be promoting those initiatives. You need to be engaged in them and promoting those initiatives. But we will provide the criteria for you to compare yourself against that church center of excellence, and it's a self-assessment thing. You can award yourself that level or not. But really, it's down to us to accredit you with a church center of excellence status, and that's the purpose, or that's one of the purposes of us having a yearly summit or an annual conference beyond. And at that stage, in an ideal world, at that stage, we would love to be giving you the £120,000 bursary that's available, that will help your church grow even larger than it is. Now, if somebody comes to me and says, I'm interested in getting that 120, I will talk you through it. I will help you, through it. But ideally, there's actually no point getting that money in because it requires you to have everything in place beforehand. So you kind of can't use it until your website is on point, until you do all the things that we've highlighted in the best practices. So it really does come as step number 10. But if you just want to see it, yeah, we can let you, taste it, but you ain't going to get it until you've done all the prerequisite steps. So yeah, hopefully that all makes sense. 10 simple steps. I'm going to go back to the main presentation now, if it decides to play ball. Meanwhile, let's see if there's anyone in the house that's got any questions. Someone's got a question here. Apologies, had to leave. No problem. Okay, so let me just get back my screen because it's all going haywire at the minute. Okay, so hopefully that made sense to you guys. 10 steps to becoming a church center of excellence. Most of the steps are quite straightforward, but the key ones for me at this stage, based on the analysis I've done, is churches need to get cyber secured and they need to be GDPR compliant. Without those two steps, I would be reluctant to have a detailed conversation with any church. If they're failing on those two, it makes it irrelevant, because I can't help a church if the auditors come and say that, and issue you with a fine of £70 million. I can't help you at that point. Likewise, if a hacker comes in and holds you to ransomware, I also can't. Well, the damage has been done. So, there's a limited amount of assistance I can give you. I can't erase the fact that you've been hacked into. Your reputation has been challenged, and fines may follow. And whatever disruption they've caused, it might take you 3 months to get rid of the virus, or to recover the data, or to rebuild your website. So prevention is better than cure, and I can't emphasize that anymore. What ChurchGOers is really about teaching you how to benefit from digital. But if you haven't got the fundamentals in place, then I have to focus on those All right. Yeah, we covered that last week. Nothing new to report. I wanted to go back and show you some of those blueprints because otherwise you might miss it. All right, let's see if we can get. All right, so digital ministry blueprint. So if you look at a church, right? If you look at a typical church organization, um, well, maybe not a typical one, but say a multi-site church, right? So you've got your national office over here, you've got your district offices here, and then you've got your individual churches here. And this is just a schematic. But whilst I'm here, let me just point out a few things. So you know it's a church because they don't have marketing and they don't have IT. So if ever you see a structure of an organization that doesn't have those two things, you know you're talking about a church. I think that's a mistake in today's world. We live in a digital world. How can you not have digital people on your board directing your business and marketing? If you don't have marketing, how do you get people in to your business? Of course, if you don't think you're running a business, then fair enough. You know, if you're running a church and the church is not a business, then fair enough. What did I say there? Why do churches not sell Bibles? Well, good question. All right, so church board, if we just expand that, we have company, charity, finance, and digital. So again, these are the regulators of a typical business, right? And that includes the church. So we report to Company House. We're registered with Company House. That means you're a business. We're registered with the Charity Commission. It means you're a charitable business. We're registered with HMSRC because we pay taxes or we claim tax exemption. And ICO means you've got a digital footprint. All of those organizations recognize us as a business and they all fine you or there are penalties if you do not comply. What else? Yeah, I mentioned the fact that we don't have a CTO, we don't have a CIO. We don't really need to go into that today. So the structure up here is the same. You know, we've got ministry departments, auxiliary. But like here, what ChurchGOers offers is a framework around security and GDPR compliance and also community ministry. So we provide a lot here. I'm not going to go into too much detail today. Okay. Right. So this is the blueprint for digital regulations. So as you can see there at the top, if you're taking electronic payments, then you need to be compliant with PCI DSS. Most organizations never heard of it. You need to have your policies in place. Most websites do have policies. Whether or not they've been properly populated, you'd have to look at it. But yeah, that's one of the regulations. DBS, DSAR forms, that's quite rare. So every organization needs to give their customers or visitors a way of communicating with them if they hold your details. And there's fines if you don't provide that capability. And anyway, this basically highlights everything that needs to be in place using a nice visual graphic. And I think I showed you earlier what a website blueprint looks like. And as I say, the areas where we are, there's quite a few areas where we're lacking actually, the average church website, but having a business profile, having the ability to run campaigns, email or newsletter, using a CRM database, very, very rare. Understanding SEO and SCM. And if you don't have an understanding of that, you really won't grow because The digital world is controlled by a few companies. The ones who have the search engines basically control who you can see. Even social media is the same. It's like, in theory, you've got however many followers, but they control who your comms goes out to. And the only way to influence them is to pay. That's what Google Ads is, or social ads. You pay so that your comms goes out, because they control it. Now, but you can get some traction if you understand how the algorithm works. So if you've got an understanding of how to influence the algorithm to let more people come to your website, then you can get so far. But really, to get as much progress as you want it, to really tackle the 5 billion, you need to understand the algorithms. And it's not straightforward, because then everybody would be rich, right? So, but that's the task that we as a community need to get together and understand: how do people searching for church services connect to our website and our services? And when you understand that, then you're going to be successful in terms of growth. Okay. Didn't want to go into that much depth, but you forced me into it today. So, okay. Hopefully that gives you an insight as to what's in our blueprints and how it makes it simple for you pictorially to understand what you need to have in place. And then as you click on it, it gives you more and more detail to guide you. So that is a very good summary of what Churchgoers does for you. Okay, we're a bit ahead of time, but let me just quickly let's go back and show you one or two journeys, as this didn't take as long as I was expecting. So evangelism, no. Which one do I want to do today? Okay, so all right, imagine me here, and let me just say, so in my church, I'm an usher, and my job is to take people to their bench. All right, find them a seat. Now, in the digital world, in the churchgoers center of excellence world, en route, the usher would say to a new visitor, "Here's our QR code for our app. On the app, you'll find all the services that we provide, and most of the questions that you might have about our church will be available to you in that app. We also have a visitors form, and you'd invite them to digitally complete that form." Now, let me just see. Right, okay. So this is a sort of blown up view of what that app looks like. And then, yeah, they would click on the visitors tab and then fill in a form, which is exactly the same as the form they would fill in um, using the paper services or the paper cards that you probably use right now. So the whole experience of church, I'm actually going to stop sharing from here. The whole experience of church has been redesigned um, to take advantage of the fact that we're now on a digital platform. Yeah, we're now on a digital platform. There is no need for us to be exhausting paper supplies, um, where we have a very efficient equivalent. So all the paper forms have been redesigned. That the common ones, your donation forms, your visitors forms, your membership forms, they can all be digitalized, and they will save you time and money and are kind to the planet. Okay, what else was I going to cover today? All right, so today we are going to be all right. Okay, we do have, get back here. We do have a special service today for someone that has recently departed from New Testament Church of God. I did have some details here. There you go. So our dearest deaconess, Silver Joy Thompson Byron, they're having a special service for her at New Testament Church of God, Herne Hill, 46 Guernsey Grove, today at 7 o'clock. And yeah, she was very good to me. I think she was the first person that gave me a hug. I'm not a very tactile person, but she was the first person in that church to give me a hug. And the last conversation I remember her having is saying, "Oh, brother Paul, I've loaded the app on my phone, and what do I do now? And I said to her, you need to come to these lunch and learn so that I can show you how to be a digital evangelist." And we laughed, and yeah, that was perhaps the last conversation I remember having with her. But anyway, we're having a good memorial service for her later on, so all those in the area, you're welcome to come along. All right. Oh, one other thing that, let me just treat you guys today. Most of you should now be aware that we are keeping a digital summit, because these lunch and learns go so far, but we want to reach the masses. We want to reach a larger population. So we're just now starting to define the details of the webinar summit. So this is the screen that you go into. It's the equivalent of Zoom, but it's customizable. And a lot of our partners will be there, but in some way or other. So here's a small list of them. We're going to have speakers. The schedule will be, we're going to have two themes: digital vision and digital ministry, effectively. And yeah, it's going to be a mix of talks, polls, panel guests, and yeah, it should be, there should be something on there for everybody. It's on a Saturday, the 16th of November, and you can get your tickets on Eventbrite for free. So hopefully that'll be something where we can all meet and get to grips with this digital ministry and the 5 billion people online. So, okay, if there's no one in the house, I'm going to go and I'm going to cut it short there. Thanks for listening. As always, your lunch and learn and pray will be here with Brother Paul from ChurchGOers. Wishing you all a good weekend if I don't see you down at Herne Hill. All right, bye for now.